Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of the Lucas and Lucas podcast. Lucas Frankel alongside Mike Lucas. I'm going to begin with the great William Belichick, just stunning the football world on a Tuesday at around 10 a.m. Eastern time. Comes out, releases Cam Newton after all indications were that Cam was going to be the starting quarterback. Obviously, Cam just went through his had it 5 days away from the team because of protocols or whatnot. Belichick has a cutthroat reputation of doing things that maybe aren't as, politically correct or like, how could you do that to that person? But Mike, you see that Cam Newton has been released by the Patriots, and what was your reaction? What do you make of the move?
My initial reaction was, holy crap, did not see that coming. It's one thing for Mac Jones to be named the starter, another thing to not even have Cam Newton stick around as your backup. But the more I thought about it, the more I kind of get it. I mean, Cam Newton, to tailor an offense towards him, because he's a completely different quarterback than Mac Jones, you have two different offenses, and Hoyer fits more in line as a backup with what you want to do with Mac Jones. So when you have a backup quarterback like with the Ravens, if Lamar Jackson goes down, you want a guy who can do what Lamar Jackson does. You don't want to have to change your entire offense from what Lamar Jackson does to maybe a more traditional pocket passer. Same thing with Cam Newton and Mac Jones. Mac Jones is a guy who is more accurate with the football. He's going to get it out quick. He's not the athlete or the runner Cam is. So to Belichick, maybe cutting ties now saves him the trouble down the road if Mac Jones gets hurt or struggles, that you don't have to completely change up your offensive philosophy, and Hoyer could step in and just continue with that. It also makes me think that Belichick believes that is the offensive style that gives this Patriots team the best chance to win. And then also, and this is a dicey subject here, but the fact that Cam's unvaccinated and the uncertainty that comes along with that is something I think that did play a factor in this decision. I mean, if he's your starter and Newton, with all the rules, and we do know Newton's unvaccinated. The reason he was suspended those 5 games was he left. So even though he hasn't said it, we do know he's unvaccinated. That uncertainty. I mean, you could be vaccinated and get COVID. It's happened. I have someone close to me dealing with it right now. So the uncertainty that goes along with your starting quarterback possibly missing an extended period of time because he did something silly, and as silly as in leave to get a COVID test somewhere because he didn't know that was the exact rules, and whether it's his fault or not, he should be vaccinated, whatever. I think the uncertainty was something that Bill Belichick didn't want to deal with this offseason or during the season. And at the end of the day, if he believes Mac Jones and Cam Newton were on par, you go with the guy who will be there more frequently, the guy who you invested in, and see what he can do early. So I trust Bill Belichick. At first, I thought it was crazy, but the more I think you look at it from the bird's eye standpoint and the 10-step back point of view, it makes sense. I think it kind of makes sense.
I would love if Belichick came to this decision because, you know what, Cam's not vaccinated, you're gone. I would love for it to be that simple. I think that would be not like hilarious, but it's just like, you can't have the CEO of your company, and for all intended purposes, the starting quarterback of your NFL team is the quote-unquote CEO. Maybe in the Patriot world, it's maybe not to that extent because Belichick is such an imposing figure. But when you're running an NFL team, you can't have this person leading your franchise who, at any moment, because he decided to make this personal choice, that he could be gone for a week, 2 weeks, and then if there's alternate effects, that you could be gone for a really long time and maybe never regain your form. And this goes back to last year where Cam was, seemingly on an MVP caliber pace through the first couple of games of the season, got COVID, and was never able to get back to that level he was at previously. Those are just the facts. And you can play this whole what if game. What if Cam never got COVID to begin with, and maybe the Patriots don't end up drafting a quarterback. Maybe they make the playoffs, and this whole thing turns out completely differently. But that seems to be the whole sliding doors moment during Cam Newton's tenure with the Patriots. The other side of this is the fact, something that you brought up, which I think probably has something to do with it, where if, let's say, because Cam looked, not this past preseason game, but the one before it, I believe he tore it up. He looked great. He was good. He looked every bit of like the guy that should be the starting quarterback for the Patriots week 1. But the Patriots did invest. You draft a quarterback at the top. I believe Mac Jones drafted 15th overall. Let's say that Cam Newton did go out there and did light it up, and the Patriots got off to a 3-1, 4-2 start or whatever have you. And then you decide, let's switch now. And then Cam doesn't take it well and pouts and kicks his feet and divides the locker room. I think that could have had something to do with it, where Belichick just didn't want the whole drama of Cam, like, oh, I was playing great, and then going out on social media and advocating to the Boston media, like, I deserve to start, because Cam's got so much pride. Cam's one of the most prideful guys in the league. So I think I as much as I would love for it to be, and as much respect I always have for Belichick, if he like brought Cam into a room and was like, hey, you're not vaccinated, see ya. Like, I would love for that to happen because, like I said, the whole liability aspect. But I think at the end of the day, it came down to the whole idea of being worried about Cam getting off to a hot start. And then the other part of it is the fact that Mac Jones looked great and Cam wasn't there. I think that also had something to do with it. Bill Simmons, did you listen to the Bill Simmons podcast, the one yesterday?
I got through about half of part 2.
Okay, so there was a point into it. May have been towards the end, because it's not ringing a bell for you. He talked about how much he loved Mac Jones and how great he's been, and how much the locker room seems to like love his spirit and energy. And so he was like almost like rooting for Mac Jones. So I think a big part of Patriots Nation was hoping that Mac Jones would end up as the starting quarterback, and obviously that's what ended up happening.
So I haven't got to that part yet, but I don't think Simmons is alone in that. I mean, I from talking to Patriot fans in my life, they wanted Mac Jones because I think they see Cam Newton has a limited ceiling. And as good as Cam could be in certain situations and in certain scenarios, if it was 3rd and 10, you had no confidence in Cam Newton being able to complete an out route 12 yards down the field. Over the past 4 seasons, he has not shown the ability to consistently make passes downfield that are on time and on target. Mac Jones will never be the runner Cam Newton is. He will never be the improviser that Cam Newton is. But he's more consistent, and he can throw the ball, and he's 22. The future with him is what the Patriot fans, I don't want to say are dying to see, because, you know, Mac Jones is not a finished product by any means. But if you don't have a guy that you're confident in, and obviously the Patriots weren't confident in Cam or they wouldn't have cut him, that why not go with the young guy, see what he has, especially on a team. And I think this does matter, Frank. The rest of the Patriots team is set up to win a Super Bowl this year. I mean, it's a veteran team. They have playmakers. They invested a ton of money on defense.
I mean, hang on. All right.
I'm not saying, listen, they're not the Cowboys. They don't have CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, but they spent
the receivers are Jacoby Myers and
they spent $80 million on 2 tight ends. They brought in Matthew Judon. Like they invested a lot of money in this team, because last season was an embarrassment for Bill Belichick and the Patriots. If Cam Newton has to be a distributor and a facilitator, which is what it feels like they want Mac Jones to be in this scenario, that's not Cam Newton. That's not what he does. It's not ever what he would do or what he can do. It doesn't play to his skill set. It plays to Mac Jones' skill set, which is why in the end, I think he ended up winning out. And I do think those 5 joint practices against the Giants minus Cam Newton were a big determining factor in Bill Belichick saying, hey, this kid's ready. Let's roll.
It is weird, though. And you have to say it. You have to like, it is weird that Belichick all through camp, every indication was that Cam's the star. I mean, obviously Belichick, you can't believe anything the guy says, because who knows what he's really thinking, we don't know Bill Belichick. At the end of the day, we can't speak to how he thinks or anything like that. But so the Patriots have the 3rd best odds the third. So first is the Bills at -155. Second best odds to win the AFC East is the Dolphins right now at +340, and the Patriots are 3rd at +350. So basically toss up between 2nd and 3rd. Over under of wins, I'm just making sure it hasn't changed since the last time I checked, but I checked a couple hours ago and it was Patriots over under 9.5 wins. Are you going over under 9.5 wins for the New England Patriots this year with Mac Jones as a starting quarterback?
I think over. I really do. I don't think they'll beat the Bills in the AFC East. I think the Bills are still the class of that division, but I would take the over, especially with 17 games. Like 10-7 is absolutely plausible for a team that I think is going to dominate some lesser opponents defensively. Their front 7 is elite. And I think Mac Jones is ready to be a pretty good quarterback. Like, do I think he's going to light the world on fire? No. But do I think he has to for the Patriots to win? No. I think he just has to be good enough. And we saw him at Alabama. Like, when everything around Mac Jones at Alabama was perfect, the dude was maybe the greatest quarterback we've ever seen in college. And it's not going to be like that in the Patriots because they don't have a Devontae Smith and a Jalen Waddle on the outside, but they have Bill Belichick. They have a good offensive line and a great defense. He doesn't have to be an elite rookie quarterback from the get-go. He just has to be solid, and I think Mac Jones is pretty solid. He was the most pro-ready quarterback coming out of the draft. He went to a team that is ready to win now. That made sense. And, yeah, 10-7 is not crazy. I think they could win 11, 12 games.
I mean, 12-5 for. I mean, that would just be ridiculous. I mean, if Mac Jones is the new Tom Brady, then I'm done. I quit. I'm just gonna be done with football. So week 1, Tua versus Mac Jones. Week 2, Zach Wilson versus Mac Jones. So the Alabama QBs are in full force here in the NFL. It's hard.
Let me ask you a question. Who do you have more faith in today, Mac Jones or Tua?
I guess because I think
the answer is Mac Jones.
I guess it's got to be Mac Jones because, I mean, Tua, I feel like there's so many Tua. I guess, well, so the way that this is being perceived publicly right now is there's so many doubters about Tua. You're hearing the Deshaun Watson rumors about, them wanting him over Tua. And, like, when you hear that and you see the way the Patriots are, like, gung-ho over Mac Jones, how could you not say Mac Jones? But it is crazy that with the 2018 National Championship team, they had all 3 quarterbacks in that room: Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones, and Tua. Yeah. And, I mean, who knows how great those 3 could be out of the league in 2 years. Who knows? But it is crazy that at one moment in time, they got 3 starting quarterbacks all on the same roster, all in the NFL. And it's not like Alabama has this like history and lineage of like elite quarterbacks. They went a while. It took Nick Saban a really, really long time. Yeah. I think Jalen Hurts was probably the first one that he had that actually like went to the NFL and the team like gave us the keys to the car for. Because before that was like Greg McElroy and AJ McCarron, like.
Yeah, all backups. He had backup NFL quarterbacks running the show for a decade at Bama, and now he's going to have a first, second round, third round pick at quarterback for the rest of his tenure there. It's a factor.
So Cam Newton, I imagine you think he's playing in the NFL again. I wouldn't. I would say he does nothing for me. Obviously, I don't want him backing up as the Jets. If you're the Texans, that's probably too good a quarterback that you want on your team right now if you're trying to get the first overall pick. And then after that, I mean, I guess the other plausible scenario that I've heard floated around is the Washington football team. I mean, I assume he'll land somewhere. What do you make of the future of Cam?
He's too good not to be somewhere with how frequently quarterbacks get hurt, but I don't think he's going to get picked up this week. I think he'll wait 3, 4, 5 weeks into the season before he gets signed, where a team loses a quarterback and they need to bring someone in. I think one team that you didn't mention that it doesn't make sense on paper, but it makes sense theoretically is the Colts. If Carson Wentz can't come back and isn't healthy, because that team is set up to make a postseason run. They have an offensive line. They have a defense that's willing to compete or ready to compete. And they got a couple of playmakers and a good running game. So maybe you just turn Indianapolis into Baltimore 2.0, let Cam be your Lamar Jackson and hand the ball off 50 times to Jonathan Taylor. But I don't see a perfect match. Washington makes sense with his ties to Ron Rivera. Like, it's like you're right. The Texans may need to sell tickets, but they want to go 0-17 if possible. So Indianapolis would be my best bet. If I had to put money on a sleeper, it'd be Indy in like week 6, but I don't feel great. He'll play sometime. It won't be immediately.
I wouldn't touch him. But why would you want a backup quarterback who is unvaccinated and can get COVID at any moment and be gone? I mean,
Can I answer that question? Can I answer that question?
The whole point of a backup quarterback is to have someone who's reliable.
Can I answer that question? Your starter gets hurt and you don't like your backup. That is the answer. And that's the only reason. You are right. You do not like a backup in the traditional sense is a guy you want reliability, will be there, knows the system. But if a team starts out 4-1, Josh Allen goes down, tears his ACL, knock on wood, please don't happen. I love Josh Allen, but are the Bills going to sit there and with Nathan Peterman as their backup and say, hey, we can still win the division and possibly compete for a Super Bowl? No, I think they'd rather bring in Cam Newton in that sense. So that is the only way I agree with you that signing Cam Newton makes sense for a football team.
So moving on, there was a report the other day that the Houston Texans, going back to the Tua thing, won 3 first-round picks in 2 seconds for Deshaun Watson. That just not happened. That was one of the most bogus things I've seen on social media in a really, really, really long time. And the fact that that got any run and any credence whatsoever is absolutely blasphemous. That anything that comes about Deshaun Watson that's not from Schefter or Rappaport or like one of the big, guns. Like, I hate how like the media world is giving credence to like these no-name people spitting in this crap about Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's not playing in the NFL until this whole thing is resolved, and he may never play in the NFL again. And no team is giving up 3 first-round picks and 2 seconds for Deshaun Watson. That is just ridiculous. I thought it was so stupid that made it and actually got traction on social media.
Okay, well, as one of those no-name journalists who wants to break a story like that, I'm gonna just say there may be some truth to that. Like whoever reported that may have gotten a nugget from a source, but I think
there's a dude who put his like reputation on the line, and a deal is in place with the Dolphins.
Yeah, and that guy, I know who you're talking about. I'm not even giving him credence to say his name, but like, I'm sure he got a nugget, and now he's trying to make it big, quote unquote. But if he doesn't go to the Dolphins, that dude should be banned for life from Twitter. Banned for life. You can't be that irresponsible. Here's what I'm getting at, Frank. It's one thing to get a nugget like that. It's another thing to put it out there. Because I hear stuff all the time that, A&M related that I would love to tweet, but it's like, okay, yeah, Jimbo wants $20 million a year. He ain't gonna get $20 million. Like, of course he wants. I want $20 million a year. Do you want to report that? Do you want to break that? Like, of course the Texans want 3 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks for Deshaun Watson. Like, yeah, does that mean the Dolphins would seriously consider it? Does that mean A&M's going to consider giving Jimbo 20? Does that mean K-Ags will consider giving me a 300% raise? Like, no. But just because someone who is inside the organization says that, and by the way, Jimbo has never said he wanted $20 million. I'm just making up some ridiculous scenario. But that's where you have to have a little journalistic integrity not to report that, because there's a line of credibility you have to have, and saying they want 3 firsts and 2 seconds. Like, yeah, guess what? Here, I'll report right now. I'm going to report something right now, Frank. The Dolphins would accept 12 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson. If the Jets offer them 12 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson, Houston would accept that offer right now. You want to tweet that?
I just saw on Twitter that the Bengals released Michael Jordan. Apparently, there's a dude in the NFL named Michael Jordan. Who knew? How could you do that to your child? Name them Michael Jordan. I mean, that's irresponsible parenting in my opinion.
Well, my little brother's Derek Jordan after Derek Jeter.
Well, I mean, you name your kid Michael Jordan, you're asking for it. You're straight up asking for it.
I see what you're saying. Well, I'm Michael Irvin.
All right, whatever. You lost the point of the story. Moving on here. We'll do a couple more football topics here and then switch over to baseball real quick before we wrap up. Let's go to win totals. Obviously, now Mac Jones with the Patriots. And you think they're going over 9.5 wins? We'll see. I think 9 and 8 is probably the number, but we'll see. Jets over under 6 wins for the New York Football Jets. Zach Wilson obviously is the new quarterback. What's your confidence level the Jets go at least? I think 5 wins is probably where they finish. 5 and 12 or 5 and 12.
5 and 12. Yeah. I think the Jets have a chance to surprise a few people, but I think on a consistent week-to-week basis, they just don't have the talent across the board to compete, especially in a division like the AFC East, where I do think the other 3 teams are all good. Like, there's a chance the Jets go 1-5, 0-6 in the division. Like, there's a real chance that is a possibility. And when you struggle against your division, it's really hard to beat a win total number, because that's being based off you competing in your division. So I think Zach Wilson has shown a lot of promise. I like some of the young guys. I think Becton's an absolute animal. I just don't think they have the talent across the board to win 7 games in an NFL season.
I have no excitement for the Jets. People say, you have no idea what I have to go through at work with the amount of criticism and ridicule that I get for the way I approach my teams. I've been told that I've given up with the Yankees like 3 million times. They say I'm the worst. They say I'm the worst fan ever. That I think the Jets. I mean, why should I be excited about the Jets? If I don't want to get emotionally invested in this stupid team, why should I? They're not going to make the playoffs. There's no hope. Why am I going to subject myself to like all this emotional investment that's not going to pay off? It's not a waste of time.
Because you have a rookie quarterback who you took second.
What do I have to be excited about this year? Oh, he'll look great.
Into the future. And listen, I went through it 2 years ago. And Daniel Jones.
You're acting like I've never been through before. The Jets haven't been good since I was a senior in high school.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. No, you're right. Listen, the Jets aren't going to be good. And the only thing you have to take going into a season where you're not going to be good is how do the young guys perform, and is Robert Saleh look like a competent head coach? And I think it's more of a learning season than anything else for the New York Jets and for their fans.
I can't wait. I'm just extreme. I'm actually going to supposed to go to week 2 against the Patriots, which now will be Tua again. I'm sorry, Mac Jones against Zachary Wilson. So we'll see how that goes. New York Football Giants, their win total is at 7. That feels really, really low to me. I think people are sleeping on the Giants. This whole notion that Ryan Fitztragic is just going to win that division because he's got this great defense around him, I think is bogus. He's another year older. He's never made a single playoff game his entire life. And why now all of a sudden, just because he's with the Washington football team and has Terry McLaurin and Chase Young, now he's going to get over the hump? I think that is one of the most outlandish takes. And everyone seems to be on board with it. Washington is winning in the NFC East. He will find a way to screw it up. Every situation that he's been in, he botches. It is in his DNA to screw up, and I am so sick and tired of seeing people that had Ryan Fitzpatrick going to win that division. Like, have you watched him? He's like 40 years old now. He's not getting any better. He's not getting any younger, and he's not winning the division. Washington will not win the NFC East.
Okay, well, the question was about the Giants and their win total at 7. And if you had asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said it's way too low, hammer the over. Frank, I know I don't want to react too much to preseason. I know it's impossible to watch a team play backups and first. I have no faith. I've lost every ounce of faith in this team. They can't stay healthy. No one's healthy. Andrew Thomas at left tackle looks like an absolute abomination of a draft pick, especially considering the 3 tackles taken after him in the top 14 have all turned out to be elite studs already. I mean, 2 of them are all pros as a rookie. And Thomas looks like he can't block me or you coming off the edge. Matt Pert on the right side is 6'8" and moves like a tortoise. Daniel Jones threw another interception that makes you just scratch your head and say, am I watching Pee Wee football or is this the NFL? Off his left foot. If everything was perfect with this team, if they were healthy, then yeah, I don't trust them to stay healthy, Frank. I see him going like 6-11. I thought they were going to win 9-10 games. I really did. And now I feel like I've lost all optimism for the season, and I just can't buy into Daniel Jones.
Well, once they win week 1, then your whole tone will change.
Yeah. I mean, probably. But I have no faith. I would take the under right now. As of today is Tuesday, August 31st. Happy birthday, Eli. Eli's, well, I'll tell you, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it on camera, but Eli got a very good new job. I will tell you.
He's the assistant coach for the G League team. He told me.
No, he got an even better job.
He's a head coach somewhere.
No, but I'll tell you, I don't know if I can say it on the record yet. I don't know.
All right, whatever. You're ruining for our viewers. All right, but all right. I'm taking the under. Another tweet just came across from Asante Samuel, who was a cornerstone of the Patriots dynasty defense. He was quote tweeting Louis Riddick, who tweeted, "Bill does what he does. Right or wrong, the man is cold-blooded and will do what he thinks he has to do, period." And then Asante Samuel quote tweeted it by saying, "Cold-blooded is an understatement, but without Brady, he," meaning Belichick, "is just another coach, in my opinion." And listen, I have a lot of thoughts about this. Here's the reality of the situation. In the history of the NFL, every great coach has been linked to a great quarterback. You go from Vince Lombardi and Bart Starr, Joe Montana and Bill Walsh, Mike Shanahan and John Elway, obviously Belichick and Brady, Dungy and Peyton. There isn't a case where there's a dude that a coach that had amazing success and they had a cavalcade of rotating quarterbacks. That's just not how it works. It's like I almost like want to scream, yes, you're right, you're 100% right, Asante Samuel, yes, because without Brady, Belichick he's accomplished nothing in his career, absolutely nothing. He's had no success when Tom Brady has not been under center under his team. Those are just the facts, and you could spin that any way you want. And I love the take.
It goes both ways. It goes both ways, though.
And what hurts Belichick the most in this situation is that in his first year without Belichick, in year 1, Brady goes to a different team with a whole new coaching staff, whole new list of players, and wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously it's a little more complicated than just any team that Brady's on wins the Super Bowl. But like year 1 without this guy, just boom, that is that easy for him.
No, and the other on the flip side, because I think quarterback's more important than coach. I think quarterback.
That has been, and for a while, people thought that a coach was more important than the quarterback, but I think that myth has been debunked hard.
Quarterback's more important. The one pro coach thing is Walsh went from Montana to Steve Young, and it was the coach that stayed the same. The quarterback changed, and they were still elite to elite. So, but yeah, it's a quarterback. Yeah, but here's the thing: is Brady without Belichick? No.
No, you
And
don't think so?
well, I think it's easy to see.
I think Brady was molded from the time he was at Michigan in high school, where he was this guy that no one believed in. You don't think he was bound for greatness no matter where he went? I mean, it's impossible to say.
Just my 2 cents. I think Brady leaving in year 20 to go anywhere, the coach doesn't matter. Brady's already Brady. But I think the nurturing and the nurturing of a quarterback and the development, bringing him through the process that Belichick did, helped Brady become this one-man machine now, where I don't think it matters who's around Brady. I think he's good enough and a good enough leader to take any team to the Super Bowl. But I don't think 23-year-old Brady could have left the Patriots, gone to another team, and immediately had that impact, which is not a hot take. Like, yeah, obviously he's way better now. So I think you look at like who's, I'm trying to think of Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl with Mike McCarthy as his head coach. Mike McCarthy is proven to be an abysmal head coach. Dan Marino, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever.
If Aaron Rodgers was under Bill Belichick, who knows how many Super Bowls he wins? If Peyton Manning had Bill Belichick, who knows how many Super Bowls he wins?
I think it goes both ways, but I do agree a good coach can't win with bad quarterbacks. A great quarterback can win without a great coach. But to be a dynasty, to be one of the greatest ever, there is some symbiotic connections there that need to be had.
Is Bill Belichick the greatest coach of all time?
I think so. You're wearing a shirt of him, so I'm assuming you think so.
It's a mocking shirt. It's like, it says angry.
I was there when you bought it. It's a great shirt.
Excited, happy.
It's the same face. Hysterical.
Right, same face every time. I'd love to say that he's not the greatest coach of all time because he hasn't won crap without Brady. He's done nothing without Brady. But you could say the same thing for every other coach who didn't have a great quarterback. So it's like, I don't know where to draw the line, but it's an impossible argument. I guess it's easy to say that he's the best coach because he had Brady and he won 6 Super Bowls with Brady. But it will always be a shadow over his legacy, aside from the Spygate, Deflategate stuff, that he never won without Brady. And that will be hanging over him like a humongous cloud, in my opinion, unless Mac Jones is Brady 2. Because if Mac Jones is Brady 2.0, then I give up and I surrender.
I can't wait to see Mac Jones throw like 3 touchdowns in week 1 without an interception. And you react. I cannot wait for Mac Jones to be good. I can't wait.
You saw the Bishop Sycamore story, right?
Yeah.
How the hell does something like that happen? Like, I can't wrap my head around it. How does this like? All you have to do is do a simple Google search to see how a team did the year before, like who their players are, and then they end up going on like I'm playing on ESPN, like a made up high school against like a legitimate powerhouse, and it loses 58-0. I just don't understand how something like that happens.
They're supposed to play the best team in Texas in week 3.
They have this like loaded up schedule, and they're just gonna get the kick. Like these apparently.
No, I don't think they're gonna play again. I do not think they're. I mean, tell me, listen. How, if you're another high school team?
I've never heard of a story like this in my life.
How do you let Bishop Sycamore come and play a game against you? You know the coach is an arrest warrant. First off,
I mean, I don't know how it gets to, like, yes, like this is just like a local TV network in Florida broadcast the IMTC Academies. This is like, I mean, we're talking about ESPN here.
Yeah,
like you do a second of research and it shouldn't be that difficult to find this stuff out.
I will say some of the jokes on Twitter about the Bishop Sycamore situation were some of my favorite Twitter moments I've seen in a long time. Like Manti Te'o's girlfriend was the homecoming queen at Bishop Sycamore.
Fun.
like some of these were so good, Frankel. Like I'll send you a bunch. I liked a bunch yesterday. Like,
all right, that was good.
Like they were so good. So I'm glad it happened because it led to just some spectacular internet comedy. But like, the worst part of the whole story, Frank, back to get serious, is no one's taking responsibility for it. ESPN's not taking
responsibility for it. This is their fault.
Should, but I'm saying no one is. ESPN's not taking responsibility. IMG Academy should be taking some responsibility because they scheduled a game against a team that isn't even a school, and all the other schools on the schedule should take responsibility. And then also, whoever recruited these kids to come here, because these are like JUCO kids. These aren't even high school kids. Like, this dude should be in jail. The coach should be in jail if he's the one behind the whole scheme because A, he has an arrest warrant out already, and B, he lied to these kids to get them to come. And his whole excuse was I want them to get exposure. Cool, I get that. This is not the way to do it. Like, you're putting kids in danger here.
It's wild. I can't believe that happened. And I can understand like the 1970s where you don't have all social media and like the internet to do all this research about a team, but we're in 2021 where it takes 3 seconds to look up the team's history and what they're all about. I mean, be better, people. Be better. Quick, I had my fantasy draft last night. I'll just read you my team real quick. What grade would you give it? Herbert, Diggs, Robert Woods, Corey Davis, Michael Pittman, Miles Sanders, Myles Gaskin, Travis Kelce, 49ers defense, and Koo is my kicker. What grade does that get?
I don't care.
A. I got an A. Best grade in the draft. So we'll see how I do.
I don't care. The whole draft grading system, was it on Yahoo?
Yeah.
Yeah, the draft grading thing's ridiculous. We had our fantasy draft last week. Goody got an A. He's the only A, and he auto-drafted. So he's the one that didn't show up, and, of course, he gets the A. So that's all BS. I like playing fantasy football. I care about my team, and I just can't get invested in anyone else's teams or issues whatsoever. I can't. I'm sorry.
All right, a couple more topics here. The Rays are the greatest team in baseball history.
It's absurd. They are the Bishop Sycamore of the MLB because they're not a real team, but they don't lose. They don't lose ever.
It's unbelievable. I mean, you just take a look at the roster. I mean, they have Austin Meadows, Joey Wendell, who's like the reincarnation of like Honus Wagner. They have Yandy Diaz, Rondo Franco's obviously got a ton of potential. Brandon Lowe's having the greatest season of all time. Randy Arozarena, Kevin Kiermaier. I mean, Manuel Margot, Nelson Cruz. Their starting pitcher extraordinary is Luis Patino. The Rays traded Blake Snell for Luis Patino, and Luis Patino is just, I mean, he looks like the reincarnation of like Nolan Ryan, Cy Young, and Sandy Koufax all put together. I mean, this is World Series or bust for the Rays. If they don't win the World Series, it's a pathetic disgrace. They should be embarrassed if they don't win the World Series this year. You have this team with this roster, and you can't go out there and you can't claim your first ever World Series. I mean, they should be embarrassed. And Kevin Cash, if he doesn't win this year, all the pressure's on the Rays. I don't want to hear about the Dodgers and their payroll, the Yankees. This is the freaking Rays. Like, you have this team and you're doing this now. You can't screw it up again. That's all I got.
They're not under any pressure, though, because
they are under pressure.
You have to have
pressure is on the Rays.
You have to have fans to have pressure. They don't have fans.
I don't care. Let's put the pressure on the Rays. This is the World Series or bust, Mike. Get on board with it. And if you're not on board with it, then get out of my face. World Series or bust with Tampa Bay Rays.
I think all Rays fans went to Bishop Sycamore. I mean, like, listen, they don't have fans. It is unbelievable what they're doing. It's hard to fathom that they're good. Like, I don't know anyone on their roster. These guys just hit home runs, get timely hits, elite pitch. Like, their best pitcher's hurt. Glasnow's not, like, it doesn't make any sense how they're winning. But they traded like two of their better players earlier in the season just because, and they still win. Yeah, you would want to say they're under pressure, but I really think to be under pressure, you have to have people care about what you do. And I think the Rays are just a machine where they don't care that no one cares because they could just keep rolling it back out and being consistently good and not have anyone care. I don't even know what I'm saying. The Rays aren't under any pressure because they don't have any fans.
The Yankees have the second best record since like the All-Star break, and the Rays have the best record, and they've gained no ground, and it is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace.
The Yankees won, was it 13 in a row? Did it end at?
Yeah.
And what they gained? One game in the standings?
Well, now they've lost.
They lost 2 in a row. I'm saying, well,
I think they gained like 2 games in the standings during that time.
It makes no sense.
So they're going to be. I mean, God willing, if the Yankees might not win a single game the rest of the season based on the trajectory they're going now. They've lost 3 games in a row, and who knows if they'll run again. But like, there's assuming that they make the wild. I mean, it's going to be the wild card game, which sucks. The wild card game I hate it. I get it, like it boosts ratings and stuff, but like to play 162 games and like.
It sucks.
And to get to it all come down to one game, I can't stand it. And it puts the Yankees, especially, at such a disadvantage if they do win that game because you got to pitch Cole, and then Cole doesn't pitch until game 3 or 4 of the division series, and then just a major, major disadvantage by playing that wild card game. And I think that it really does these teams a disservice. And I wish MLB would change it because they make so many terrible decisions. But last thing before we go, the whole Holly Baez Mets thing. Listen, obviously they shouldn't take the booing so personally. Like Derek Jeter always said it best about the booing. Like, I boo me too, is how he would always say it if his team was losing. But here's the reality of the situation. The Mets still have a chance to at this thing because they got basically the whole rest of their schedule is against the Marlins and the Nationals. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Braves have to face, they got a bunch of games with the Dodgers and the Giants here. So this by no means is like wrapped up. So they have 2 more with the Dodgers. They got the Giants again. They got the Padres, the Phillies, and they wrap up with the Mets, a 3-game series. That's probably what it's going to come down to. That 3-game series at the beginning of October will determine who wins that division. The Mets will be in this thing. I'm telling you, it is not over for the Mets. They have too easy of a schedule to botch this thing, and it is going to be interesting. There's a whole month of the season left. They're like 6 games back of the Braves. This thing is far from over.
My take on the players booing the fans is it's hysterical. My first thought was, I can't believe those words came out of a professional athlete's mouth. And B, it's also the dumbest decision anyone's ever had in the history of impending free agents to say, if you boo us, we're going to boo you back to a fan base. Like, it is a PR absolute catastrophe to do that. And then to see Stephen Cohen, the Mets owner, come back and write his notes app on Twitter, which is always so sappy and stupid. If you get booed, you get booed. Like, it is what it is. I've booed Stanton. Like, I know it's kind of crazy for like grown men to boo other grown men, but that's part of why sports is awesome, because that's a forum where you can show your appreciation and gratitude and or your displeasure towards another person in a humanely manner. I think booing's okay. I don't like when it gets a little more personal or nasty than that. So with the Mets, the fact that they are retaliating to the fans, who, by the way, Mets fans have every right to boo Lindor.
Of course, yeah.
And biased. They've been terrible. Terrible. I just think it's hysterical that they're giving back to him, because Mets fans suck too. I hate Mets fans. So, boo Mets fans. I'm with you, Javi. I'm with you, Francisco. I also loved your idea the other day, Stanton for Lindor straight up.
I got so much crap for that. I mean, like, this dude I work with, who shall Nate be, if you want to see who it is, you can just check my Twitter. But this dude loves Stan. He has a Stanton shirt. He has a Stanton jersey. He loves Stanton. And, like, he roots for the Yankees. And, like, anytime he gets a hit, he's like, Stan. But, like, his trade value will never be higher than it is right now. Get him out of town. Get him out of my face. And if there's anyone I could trade him for, please do it. I would trade Stan for Robinson Cano if I could. The Mets would be willing to do that. I believe Cano has a couple more years off his contract. Just get Stan out of my face. He grounded to a double play in the second inning last night. I mean, he was, like, jogging the first. I mean, like, and if he would have beaten it out, the Yankees, like, they'd probably score more runs in that inning, or I believe it was the first inning. And who knows how that game changes if Stan just, like, tries running. Like, watch the video. It is one of the most pathetic things I've seen, how slow he ran to first base for a double play. And if that's the kind of stuff that you know I'm talking to you, the person that tweeted at me, how could you support that? How could you root for that? Be better. Be smart. He's gonna suck again. And I just you should know better. And that will do it for this edition of Lucas Lucas Podcast. See you all next week. Hopefully the Yankees won't be on a 13-game losing streak, and we'll see where we're at. Take care.